So this is BMW's X1, the brand new model, and it's been with us in various models for just over a decade now, and it's actually a really well-selling car for BMW in Ireland. So in some ways you could say, you know, it's got a bit of a legacy and this new version really has to match up to it. And well, there's lots of ways it certainly has. The grille, for example, thinking of aerodynamics, can open and close if it needs to, depending on engine temperature. And that depends if you have an engine in there, because there's an iX1 also available. Over the front, you've got little air curtain flows to help. And again, on the back, they've got little bits of spoilers and bits on the car to help with aerodynamics. But what's it like to drive? Because in essence, a BMW still has to be fun to be behind the wheel of. And if it's in front wheel drive, which this version is that possible? We'll have a look around this car in huge detail today. If it could be your next family car, you'll probably have the answer to that by the end of this video. So thank you very much for coming this far. Hopefully you've subscribed to the channel by now. And if you haven't, hit the sub button, please. And let's get on with the review. Welcome to Nobby on Cars. So certainly from the side angle, I mean, it borrows the glass design and lots of just the design of the slope and the roof. And it's definitely like a baby X3, but actually in some angles, sometimes it's like a baby X5. Kind of. First time you can get 20-inch alloys on an X1. They look lovely, but they are a little bit hard at times. And sometimes the suspension going over cobbles and bumps is kind of like, whoa, what am I trying to do here? But if you want to sport your good handling drive, which the X1 can do, then yeah, the tires are kind of the trade-off with those bigger alloy wheels. This car has got blind spot, you've got cameras all around, it has the 360 on board camera, which is really, really good. Privacy glass, and then it ends in a big, huge boot spoiler that hangs over the back of the car. And the colour is Cape York Green Metallic. Kind of 3D sort of lenses on the rear of the car. They look very smart. You've got a bit of a diffuser going on here. This is an M Sport model. The starting price is from €47,000. This car is 65,000, and the iX1 fully electric all-wheel drive starts at €65,000. So 2-litre diesel, M Sport, iX1 electric, same price. We have an electric boot on the car, which is 540 litres. If you go for X-Drive and plug-in hybrid, you lose a bit of that space. Your parcel shelf kind of just hangs here in the balance. There is a kind of a kink in it to help you maybe maneuver it around things, but it's not flexible. However, there is some good stuff too. So you have a parcel shelf down here that is also removable. The space for storage. You've got a couple of nets. You've got an LED light and sort of, yeah, no, you've got shopping hooks. And if you do have this part raised up, it's a nice direct load into the boot. Also, if you've got pets and just for dragging things out, it does make life a hell of a lot easier getting in and out of your X1. Also, it likes to throw up a huge amount of dirt over the back of the car. I was going to wash it and I was like, what's the point? A bit of a love-hate thing going on with the key. So you can have the option where it just opens the driver's door. And if you walk away with the key in your pocket, the car will lock. But then if you only literally go from that door to this door to get another kid out, and you've got the key in your pocket, the car will lock. And it's a little bit annoying. Now, you have a Darth Vader looking set of vents down here with 2 USB-Cs. There's a little tray here. There is a bit of a hump in the floor, okay? You have an armrest, which again, sometimes in this type of car, you don't necessarily get one. There's a bit of thigh support. There's plenty of knee room and foot room, and you can really raise these seats well up off the ground. Also like the fact that you can move these seats forward to give yourself more of a boot. There's an awful lot of adjustment. So you have a seat set up here that is 40-20-40. So you have a little cable here. You pull on that, and you can lower this and then load things through the boot, but still have 2 full-size adults in the back. There's loads of different angles that you can have that at as well. So that's very impressive, and I don't really remember a BMW that has that before. So maybe even just one person, you can have more room in that boot because this person doesn't need huge leg room, there might be a smaller child or whatever, and then you can still have loads of space here. They've maybe nets in the back of the seats. Now, I don't know if they come as part of a pack or whatever, but Audi would charge you for that. Let me show you how the windows come. By the way, they are solid doors. That's as far down as your window goes. Glass roof in this car is substantial. And again, unlike a lot of cars, you can actually open the roof. So it'll flood in the air, and not today obviously, but it's nice to have. I love the little angular door handles and the releases for the door. A little bit of thought of stylishness has gone into the back of the X1. There's also tons of head height. So as family cars go, it's very generous with all the space you need. M Sport seats are particularly comfortable, great support, so you're not going to be slipping and sliding around in your seat. You've got thigh supports on the front and this great big, beautiful BMW steering wheel that is actually almost too thick to get your hands around. It's quite thick, like chunky, very, very chunky. One of the quirks of the car is you got radar guided cruise control, but you have to go into the center screen to set the distance that you prefer from the car in front. In every other car I've driven, you set the distance from here. So unless you like leaving your middle, close or far distance constantly the same way, you'd be driving on a motorway and having to go in here to change that. That's strange. Crystal clear information here for the driver. It will predict if you're going to go through a stop sign and warn you. It will predict if you're going through a set of lights and warn you. It will flash up on the display. Now, some of these things aren't a standard, but very, very safety conscious. Center armrest is here, and this is the way it opens. So it's set up for left-hand drive cars. It doesn't flip this way. Now under here, at first I was like, that's a bit weird because this is kind of floating. But then you've got tons of storage down here for a massive bottle of water. You've got cup holders, 2 USB-Cs, wireless phone charging down here. And there's actually kind of a little holder. So if you wanted to charge something like AirPods, they'd usually drop down. But they've left this little clip here that slides forward, and then you can hold something smaller in place and it can charge against the pad. So that's pretty handy. Center bits of the seats are like something you might expect from a 7 Series, just that kind of quilted pattern going on. There's one solid air vent here, all the buttons are gone, everything is contained in a screen, which generally is okay. I've seen it lag up a little bit, probably just a software thing, but generally it's an easy system to use. I like it. I've used it in other BMWs and just searching for nav and things that you might expect sometimes wouldn't show up in a sat nav are there. Paddles here with a boost function looking thing on it. Not sure what it's going to boost you with, but it's there. Really is a huge steering wheel, chunky. Head-up display in this car, not the most expensive of extras actually. You can kind of get it as part of a pack, and I like it. It's got loads of stuff built into it. It's always, you know, I know they're kind of a first world problem luxury toy, but kind of when you use them enough, you kind of like the benefit of them. Love the handles and the angles again in the front. There's tons of space to hold things down here. Cat ball to drug your kids with. You know, you can fit things in here. Packet of crisps. Snacks, holders, everything that they will shout at you for, you can contain in this car. Oh, and when I sat in this car on Monday, when I picked it up, it had over 1,100 kilometers in the diesel tank. That's impressive. Just in terms of engine lineup with the car, so you have a 1.5 petrol turbo, you've got a 2-litre diesel with 150 brake horsepower, then you've got a 2-litre petrol, you've got plug-in hybrids coming, depending on performance, with 240 brake horsepower up to 326 brake horsepower, as far as I remember. And then you've got the electric lineup. So they've got petrol, diesel, mild hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and electric. Every angle you might want to consider in a car like this is being covered. And I think that's pretty commendable for BMW, because there's something for everybody in the audience, if you get me. And obviously, the starting price is wildly fluctuating from, on the website, about 47,000 euro, right up to like 70,000 and beyond. There's quite a variance of budgets there for people. But again, like, some people will go mad on a car like this and they want every option, and M Sport this and every fancy extra, and then others will just want the bog standard car. Even the 2-litre diesel has plenty of grunt. I've always been a fan of BMW diesel engines ever since the E46, 150 brake horsepower. The engine in that, I remember friends had them and I was like, these are so quick because there was plenty of torque. And generally, whatever BMW diesel engine you're in since then, it's always been the same. There's plenty of on-the-move grunt. There's plenty of seat adjustment, whether you want to sit low on the ground or raise that seat up. The same with the steering wheel. There's plenty of rake and reach. So I think just about everybody's going to be happy. This version, again, it is €65,000, but it has electric memory seats, a couple of memory options that you can hold there as well, so you can always find your right setup. Seats are very supportive, they're very comfortable. There's good support in the back. As I mentioned earlier on, there's good support on the bolsters and the side of the car, so you're always kind of nicely tucked into your seat. And even though you're in something that is a slightly higher up SUV, it's still a nice seating position. That wraparound screen is angled towards the driver. You've got your lovely chunky steering wheel from BMW, and it just feels like a good place to be sitting. Now, again, it's not the entry-level car, but it's a nice place to be behind the wheel of. That driver-orientated dynamic, it's very much there. There's not a huge amount of body roll in it. Yes, the trade-off of the firmer setup does mean that, while it will handle better, it can be a little bit harsh over certain bumps, certain potholes. Depends on what type of road you're driving on, of course. I'm just curious about this boost function, though. I'm meant to hold it down, like, it's just a red boost button. It's like, press me, press me. If you do want to use those paddles, although because the steering wheel is so chunky, unless you have really long fingers, can be quite hard to reach the paddles. There's no park button as such. Like, there's a P for a handbrake, that's fine, but that's it. So that's kind of unusual. It's like as if they're getting away with, or doing away with, certain parts of the car. Like, you just have a tiny nib for your gear selector, and that's about it. There's a rotary knob for the volume on this lovely Harman Kardon sound system that, again, is on this car as an optional extra. But that in-gear acceleration is really where it's at. If you do a lot of motorized driving, and you do want that confidence of over 1,000 kilometers when you jump behind the wheel, just get the diesel, Like, I was talking to someone very senior in the automotive industry a couple of weeks ago, and there will be a point, obviously, where sales of new cars of combustion engines will come to a halt. But even then, for years afterwards, there's still going to be a market of fossil-fueled cars. They'll still need to be serviced. People will buy second-hand cars. And that's not going to change overnight. So, people do often ask this person, what's the story? Should I still go diesel? For the next, certainly 5 years, you're going to be able to buy a full-blown diesel. There will be different changes with brands in terms of Mazda might say, we're not building any more diesel cars from 2025. And Audi will say, yeah, we're doing diesel till 2030. And then after that, we'll stop. They've all got their own little kind of plans. But if I was doing cross-country driving and I wanted something that would just, for now, not really thinking of 10 years down the road, and I don't want to be stuck at a charger crossing Ireland with my 2 kids or 3 kids in the back, and I want 1,000 kilometers in that tank, then I think diesel is still worthy of consideration. Obviously hugely depending on your own circumstances. BMW promise about 5.5 litres per 100 kilometers and no worse. I'm seeing 5.8. Seems pretty honest. You can time the car for the mornings, but it's only for cool air. They're missing a trick there. You don't seem to be able to, I've set I might try it actually tomorrow, where I'll have the aircon before I get out of the car really, really high. But from what I could tell every morning that I've tried, because it's been very cold this week, and I've put in the timer on it, and there was like a small bit of de-icing going on with the windows, but it was just from the normal air, because the car certainly wasn't warm. The heated seats weren't warm. The heated steering wheel wasn't on. I was a little bit disappointed by that. Genuinely, like, I'm messing out here. There's very little body roll for the size of this car. It's not a coupe like, but it's not bad either. I think when you get behind the wheel of this car, you know, and you've spent your hard-earned money on it, and maybe you're in an M Sport, you look around, you look at the fit and the finish, it's really, like, it's best in class. It's really, really solid put together. There isn't a squeak or a rattle out of the interior. Lovely, wonderful materials used throughout the cabin, throughout the car, even in the back. And also something, that kind of, the indicators click into position. That old soft touch BMW thing is gone. And I wonder, is that part of the reason why BMW drivers just didn't use their indicators? You know, because it was quite a complicated system to use. Now, you press the indicator down and it locks into place. So there's no excuses anymore. That 8-speed gearbox, it's pretty quick to respond. If you put your foot down in the automatic, it just takes off. Yeah, it's a little bit noisy, all right. From a 4-cylinder, would I expect that? Yeah, probably would. But it's quick for gear changes, and that in-gear torque acceleration, that's what I'm talking about. And that's always there on tap. Let's go around the corner a little bit too fast. Plenty of grip, no body roll. Into a corner. Still tons of grip, actually. Not that I don't feel confident heading in a greasy road towards a hedge. I'm gonna have to slow down now because there's a Nissan Leaf up front. But anyway, I'm proving the point. If you want overtaking power, if that's something that's really important to you, there's plenty of it from the standard 2-litre diesel engine in this lineup. There's a little bit of time where you feel ever so slight torque steer, but it's not too bad. You're certainly not having to grab onto the steering wheel for dear life. So they've managed to balance that out pretty well too. I think this is just a great all-rounder of a car, to be honest with you, if you have a family and you need that. Obviously if you don't, may not be the style of car for you, but if you do, you've got to check out the X1. Anyway, time for the summary. So this is my take on the BMW X1. I've done an awful lot of cross-country driving this car this week. It's powerful. It's got plenty of options for families, a good boot, plenty of space. No one feels claustrophobic on a long journey. It's still pretty good to drive, and you know, this is just the 2-litre diesel front-wheel drive. So the more performance-orientated cars, I think the chassis of it and everything would be well up to it, because it's still got an enjoyable drive at the heart of it, despite it being another SUV, another family car on the market. And I suppose BMW, if they're going to do it, they're just going to do it right. And that's kind of what I get from the X1. And I reckon for Car of the Year next year, this is going to be a serious contender in one of the categories where it's just kind of going to be king. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.